Hi, everyone, and welcome to Breaking Down the Political System. This is episode number 3. Today, we are having on a special guest today, Jeff. Why don't you say hi, Jeff?
How's it going?
He is the producer for the Adam Kokesh show, Adam versus the Man. He's been helping him with a couple of projects, most recently with his book that just came out. So yeah, I just want to get a couple of quick questions here in before Brad has a couple questions for you as well. So what was your politics growing up like when you were younger? Where did you kind of come from? What was your family kind of politics? Is that what influenced it, or yeah?
I grew up in Orange County, California. That's a very well, Southern California is very split, but I grew up around mostly liberals and Democrats, and that's what I always thought was like my home. My home party was always the Democrat, or at least it's funny because when I was in second grade, I went to a school and they actually wrote on the wall, on the chalkboard that there were 4 parties. It was like Democrat, Republican, Green Party, and Libertarian. And when they went through and told us about what they all were, I was the only kid in the class who picked Libertarian. It's super funny. But aside from that, I was always probably a Democrat growing up.
Okay, cool. So are you a voluntarist now, and how did you come to voluntarism then, if you are?
Well, I was in like '07, '08. I owned a business where I converted diesel cars to run off vegetable oil and biodiesel. And I was on Discovery Channel and CNN and stuff for that. And the state shut me down because I was, helping people dodge road taxes.
Those
And
assholes.
all the while, George W. Bush, Obama, everybody talking about, putting more money into biodiesel and alternative fuels and stuff like that. And, and I also helped, I converted Arnold Schwarzenegger's Hummer when he was the
Wow.
governor here in California. A month later, I was shut down by the state. So I was pretty disgruntled about being taken out of, my business and everything, 7 years of working my hands off. Um, I knew who Ron Paul was, but only, several statements of his, but I knew he was a Republican. I thought, Republicans are the devils. Of course, if you're a Democrat, they're Satan. So it was like I always heard stuff. I'd heard a couple of his speeches, and I was like, "Damn! Like, who's this guy? Oh, he's a Republican. Oh shit!" So I was pretty disgruntled when I got more into Ron Paul, and through Ron Paul, through Rothbard, through a lot of good friends, Adam. Um, so a handful of people. I eventually, over about 5 years, probably came to becoming a voluntarist.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
Ron Paul just seems to be such a common
Oh yeah.
denominator there with
Yeah.
people.
Dude's such a badass.
Yep.
I still like listening to him
Yeah.
speak. So when you were a kid, were you homeschooled, private schooled, public schooled?
I was in public school, a little bit of private school, but mostly public school. And I guess I lived with my mom, but my dad, who was actually an anarchist, I would every once in a while go and stay with him, and like it was that kind of influenced me a lot eventually, clearly.
So almost unschooled a little bit there. Hey?
Yeah, and whenever I went and lived with my dad, I was homeschooled, but when I was in Orange County with my mom, I was in school and they had me on like ADHD pills, and I had braces where they had like broken my jaw, to like fix my
Wow.
teeth and like all this awful shit. you know, and it's like, why would you do that to kids? You know, and like they'd make me get up in front of the classroom and take the pill like in front of the whole classroom. You think that doesn't do something to a kid after a while? Like looking back, it's like, geez, knowing what I know now, like, oh man, it was so bad back then.
Yep,
That's crazy. That's like what?
I'm
Wow.
really sorry that happened to you, man. That's ridiculous.
Luckily, I had a really cool teacher who raised a big stink and went to the newspaper about, you know, like
Wow.
I was like drooling in my chair, and like he got fired because he went to the principal and like talked shit to him, and he was fired, and then he went to the news and told them what happened, and like they then I ended up going and living with my dad. And he was like, "Do you want to take these?" And I was like, "Hell no!" And he was like, "Do you want those braces?" And I was like, "Hell no!" And he took we pulled my braces off with some pliers.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah,
That is
get
awesome.
over it.
That's some real anarchist shit right there.
Yeah, it's funny. Like now that I understand all this stuff, seeing how my dad raised me and like
Yeah.
all his beliefs. You know, going back, even though he didn't necessarily call himself an anarchist, but like he lived on a sailboat. You know, like.
Wow. That's
He
awesome.
decided
You don't get
not to
much
go
anarchist
and
in that.
do everything the way everyone else does, and that's kind of what I've done with my life too.
That's really cool. Like I've been experiencing throughout you talking about that, just experiencing feeling like, really, a lot of compassion for you because I went through a lot of that kind of stuff as well, myself, in terms of especially the medication and stuff. They just hop on children these days, and also I was really happy just to hear about how it kind of ended up with you, with your dad, kind of helping you out of that. I mean, how much of an influence was he to you throughout that period? I mean, because you said you moved in with him. Was it at that point that it really started changing, or?
Well, I was going to school like I was supposed to. Moved in with my dad at 16, so I
Okay.
started going to local high school, and it was just like, whenever they tested me, I test off the charts. You know, I just didn't want to do it. You know, it was just
Right.
boring. It was not like I felt humanly, like in the deep of my soul that I didn't want to be there doing that shit, so I didn't put my heart into it ever. And he was like, "Hey, he's a certified captain, like he could sail like huge ships, and so he'd do all these jobs. And he was like, "Hey, you could finish school, or I could homeschool you, and we could go like sail, the South Pacific." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'd rather do that." And I learned, math by navigating with the stars and shit like that.
Damn.
Like real life experience, which is what we're all
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be
Yeah.
stuck in a room with a bunch of people our same age who are novices at life. That's not how you learn things. You learn things from being around older people and going out and doing stuff. And so I'm very, very anti-school.
Yeah. Very anti-public school at the very least,
Yeah,
right?
and I have a 4-year-old, and his mom isn't on board with my beliefs, and it's pretty
Oh
scary,
no.
having to deal with that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very intense. It's very
Well, good.
realistic.
Yeah. I'm sure
Hope
that.
that you could with all that you can at the very least raise him to question or her. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I caught if it was
Yeah,
a guy or a
good
girl.
boy.
Okay, yeah. So you raising him to question everything that he's learning in
Oh
school, that
yeah.
would at least be a start, right?
No, with me as his dad and Adam as his uncle,
Yeah. There's no way that kid's growing up to be a statist or anything like that.
yeah, God, he's gonna be a statist. No matter how much his mom tries.
That's awesome.
Uh, so you had a couple of questions for him, Brad.
Yeah. So speaking of your family and your uh, your life right now, we've heard that you recently started buying land and kind of you're doing like a homesteading project. What kind of can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's Antelope Valley, which is just northeast of LA. It's high desert. There's like millions of acres that are owner financed, which basically you call the owner and be all, yeah, I'll take it, and he's like, okay, well, it's going to be like $380 a month for 10 years, and you're like,
Right.
cool, and so for $380 you own a huge chunk of land, and it's like everywhere I go is for sale signs. And all I
Wow.
can see is like, hey, why don't we just get everyone to move out here and fill this valley? Like if it was this easy for me to buy a huge chunk of Southern California, like why not
Right.
invite
Right.
people here? Let them stay, on my land until they find something or whatever. Like there's just it's everyone's so scattered, and New Hampshire sucks.
It's
Um,
cold, freezing
yeah,
your balls
you know,
off.
and as much as a lot of people have prejudices against California, it's actually
Yeah.
still one of the freest states in the union, and we're in a very big upswing with our civil rights as far as local government goes. And we have the best weather anywhere. We have the hottest girls. We have the best weed.
Mm.
Like you can't beat California. Everywhere else, everyone, blah, 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 California, da da da. Like you can't have guns there, and it's like, no, that's not how it is at all. There are more AR-15s in California than there are in the rest of the country combined. Like
Wow.
there's so many guns in California, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say or ask you about that. With buying up that land, does it kind of resemble something with this whole Earthship movement, or is it just land that anybody can make with use to make with what they want?
basically, I mean, we're gonna keep it, you know. We're going to keep it sustainable, and we're going to have greenhouses, and we're going to do aquaponics, and we're going to do stuff like that. That's like basically, we have this land. What can we do with it? What can we do with it that makes us not have to use money? Because when we use money, money goes towards people getting bombed. Like that's
Right.
not what I want
Right.
to put my money towards. So let's make food. It's enough land that like we can do anything. Like it's a million square feet of land, and beautiful desert, like the most beautiful like desert you've ever seen. There's unlimited sun, all year round, so it's a very
Yeah.
good place to do something like this. And basically, anyone who wants to come out and be there, as long as they're contributing something to that idea, and like being useful to the group and their, non-aggression principle, basically,
Absolutely.
and that stuff, then like that's cool. We just, instead of when me and my wife bought this place, this land. We were going to get married, and it's like, okay, well, instead of spending $30,000 on a wedding, let's buy some land and do something good for the greater good of the world, or this area or something with it,
Well, I
something
I
cool.
definitely wish
Something
more.
that's not going to get
Yeah,
away in the night. That's something that's going to last forever.
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so we bought this land, and we we got married on it, and just like invited a bunch of friends. I don't know if you saw the pictures, but it was a Mad Max themed wedding.
Oh wow. Is
And
that is that is that one of is that you guys have a picture of
yeah,
you
it's up
and
on
your
my
wife?
Facebook.
She's got like
Yeah,
a pistol. You've got an AR or something like that, or a shotgun.
yeah.
Is
It
that one
was
of
an
those?
open carry wedding, and it was
Nice.
Mad Max themed, and it was funny because it was really hot around that time, but it just happened that night to be super cold, so it was kind of miserable. But all like the friends that
Yeah.
showed up, we knew were our good friends because they drove out in the middle of the desert, with GPS coordinates on April Fool's Day of all.
Oh wow.
They actually like went out there. It was so funny because they were like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if Jeff?" They were just laughing. We're all just kidding. We're all
That's
but
crazy.
yeah, so the land, like I understand that by buying the land, there's tax revenue generated by that, but it's like
Sure.
$280 for 21 acres of land, And if we're putting it to good use, that's nothing. And I don't actually believe that I own the land. I just think it's a little bit, it's a little more safer for me to do what I want to do on it,
So it's sort of like a lease in a way, or
Yeah, like if I was trying to do some, like, going on federal land, trying to homestead there, that would be a lot more trouble
right,
than if I
right,
bought this
Right.
place for a couple $100 a month, and we were able to put up like put up fences and be like fuck off,
right,
and
right, right.
legally, at least, not that I believe in that, but at least it helps us sleep a little bit better at night, you
Sure,
know.
sure. If you were using federal land, it'd probably be like you'd probably find some sort of bird that they would
Yeah.
they would find some reason to come and fuck your shit up for, right?
Yeah. So it's funny. There's a side story to this.
Okay.
So there's the Phillips Ranch project, and that's going on in um, August. We're having a little camp out, like an initial. Everyone who's interested initially is going to come out, and we're going to have a camp out and do some stuff. And that's going to be really cool. That'll be like one of the first steps that's going to be going on with that. But it turns out that literally a mile and a half away from my property is a facility that has assembled and trained every single pilot and tested every single Predator drone and Reaper drone that is in the armed forces.
I was gonna get to that because it's kind of an interesting situation. You're trying to build this kind of freedom oasis in the middle of the desert, right?
And
But
there's Reaper
right down the
drones
street,
flying over our heads. You
right
can
down the
imagine.
street.
You can imagine
Oh man.
my face when I first saw one.
Oh yeah. You must have freaked out, man. Oh, that is
I stuffed
insane.
my wife and my kid in the car and sent them away.
So did you not know that this was near your property when you
Well, I Google
got it?
Earth
Or?
everything, and I saw the airstrip, and I saw that it was General Atomics, so I knew it was something up to no good. That's like Raytheon having a something there or something.
Right,
They're
right.
building rockets or something.
Doctor Doom right
Yeah, I
next
knew
to
it
you.
was something bad. But
Yeah.
once I saw the drones, it was like, that's actually like the facility that is done. Like that is Skynet headquarters.
Right.
That's
is
pretty awesome, though.
the
You're
worst place.
standing at the gates of Mordor. You're setting up camp just to. That's actually attractive. I'd actually like to see. I've never seen a drone in person. I might want to see one, so I could come down to your property there and look up and be like, hey.
It's like the brightest. It's all desert. It's pitch black, but this huge city, airstrip that's glowing, all night long, and they fly these things day and night. So it's a constant reminder to me. I look at the thing 50, 60 times a day, and I don't like it being there. Because, I've been got a little nutty doing research on these drones ever since I moved here. But they're out of, like, the 380 Predators that they've built, like, over 200 of them have crashed. Like, these things fall out of the sky all the time. And it's like they're literally flying right over my property multiple times a day. This morning, I woke up with my wife, and we were sitting there outside. When it's early, it's not very hot there, and one came over 3 times, and I got some of the best footage I've got of him so far. But he passed over 3 times in 5 minutes, like maybe 300 yards up. And these are Reapers. These aren't Predators.
Yeah.
Reapers are the size of like F-18s. They're huge.
And those have like hellfires and stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's creepy because they'll fly by like so low around me, and I have signs up. I have a big, huge board that says "Don't drone me, bro," and then I have another one that says drones make America less safe, and it's huge.
Yeah.
It's like huge, and I have them up, so I know they see me because they're testing out optical cameras and shit all day out there. I mean, they've seen. There's a chase plane that follows the drone. I've locked eyes with this guy in my underwear with a camera. Like, this dude, they know I'm down there. But anyway,
Yeah.
so they.
And this wasn't planned, and this wasn't even planned. Like, this is just like
Yeah.
just happenstance. It's
You
hilarious.
could make a TV show out of that. That's pretty funny.
Once I write a book, no one's gonna believe anything. Like, there's no way this much shit happens to one person. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this place is here, and so I'm like, okay, well, this place has to go, like if this is if this is what fate put me in this desert to shut down this drone facility, then so be it, So it's like I just don't know how I'm gonna do that,
Yeah, that's a tall task. That's a tall task, definitely.
Yeah.
I think if enough people knew it was there, it would cause enough fuss, But no one knows it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And
No,
only people who
from
who
Los
would
Angeles, they're flying these things, that go out and just murder by, the hundreds every day.
Yeah.
And you look at all the statistics of like every target they go after, they kill 45 civilians, and then, if you look at drone numbers from, the first Predator that went up with a rocket, they've killed like 4,000 or 5,000 children just alone. That's just children. That's not their parents, grandparents, like.
And those are just the reported numbers.
Just children,
Yeah.
And
well, nothing
like,
says American hero more than some guy sitting in a room with a controller saying, "Hey."
Right.
All in the name of 9/11, where we lost 3,000. So we lost 3,000 people. We've killed, I don't know, roughly 10,000 of their children. Don't you think that's fair? Like.
Yeah.
So let's get into the next topic here. We've we've run the gamut so far, but let's go ahead and continue here. So you work with Adam, right? You work with Adam Kokesh. Now, he recently got into a bit of legal trouble, if you could call it that.
Like 5 years ago to me.
Right. Yeah. So his trial is over, correct? And
yeah,
his sentencing is coming up in September. September 5th. Now, are you concerned about that in terms of like the I mean what do you guys really know what's going to happen? I mean, you have no idea, or you just kind of got an idea, or what?
I'm more concerned than anybody. It's disturbing to see how not concerned the people around me are. But I don't, I babysat him the whole time he was in jail, all through that whole thing. And like, I know, he was only in Virginia jail for a couple weeks before he got transferred to the feds in D.C. So they're not going to let him walk time served after he only did 2 weeks for all those charges. I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't think that they're going to go easy on Adam Kokesh, So I am worried. Adam's not worried because he's got the book out and doesn't give a shit about anything but that. And that dude had a ball in jail, like it was easier for him than it was for me during that time.
Yeah, I mean, to be concerned about a friend like that, who's in a situation like that, I mean, must be.
Yeah, and it's funny because
really
the
difficult.
first 50% of the time he was in jail, I thought he was just like acting like he was really in good spirits, but he actually was the whole time. It was really funny.
Yeah, I remember.
The dude just saw it as a like documentary experiment where he could try and convert everyone in jail to become anarchists.
Yeah.
I mean, he came up with a book idea. I was interested just to see him not busy and come up with something, because I knew something good would come out of him not being able to do his show for X amount of time. And the book came out, which is rad. So,
that is really cool.
So were you doing the show with him before, long before that?
I I was like, I've always been kind of his just advisor. Like he'll run shit by me. I come up with a lot of ideas. I'm very creative and gifted in just like coming up with ideas all day for this type of shit.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of advised him behind the scenes. And then the march, the open carry march that was supposed to happen last year on 4th of July. That was my pet project with him, and that's when he outed me. 'Cause I was staying in the background
Incognito.
for most of the stuff, and then he outed me as being like the regional coordinator for that, and then my life has been a blur ever since.
Well,
Because
really cool.
I mean, that was a long, that was last year, but that feels like, oh man, that feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
feels like a
during
long
his
time.
during his stint in jail, it was actually prison, wasn't it? It was legit prison. It wasn't just jail, right?
It was federal detention center.
Oh man, that was, I don't know how he was in such high spirits during that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I remember watching some of his videos. Some of the were you the one who was kind of coordinating that between him and getting those
yeah.
kind of, I guess,
The
almost,
podcast up from
yeah, those
jail over
videos,
the
yeah.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of not in the same way, but of like kind of Mumia Abu Jamal, I think,
Yeah.
one of those
Mm.
freedom fighter activist kind of guys now, who basically just is accused of murdering somebody. But it kind of reminded me of that, but in a more of a good way. But so yeah, and there was some issues with some. I don't really mean to bring this up too bad, but some missing funds and all that kind of stuff. Some really fucked up shit happened during that time period, and we were just wondering whether how that got resolved, what ended up happening with that. And I think from what I saw, some of the old videos of you talking about this stuff, you handled it very well, but we were just curious about
Did you
how
see
that
my
ended up
Hitler
happening.
video?
Your what?
The Hitler response video that I did about that
Oh,
whole period. Did you see that one ever?
I don't think I saw that one,
Oh
but I did see you
man,
do a couple of
that I spent like a month and a half doing that one. That's one of my greatest masterpieces. But you got to see that. That that the Hitler response video is my like theatrical comic book version of what happened.
yeah.
Basically, as far as all that stuff goes, Adam was taken out of his home and his business with all his belongings and all his money going in and out of there,
Right.
and was who was left there. God bless them all. I love all of them. They're all rad, but they weren't getting a paycheck at the time. So
Right.
when
Mhm.
everything's not set up for what just happened. Like he just got kidnapped out of nowhere,
There
and
was no
everything
plan.
that was going went to shit. And
Yeah.
for some reason, all the people who should have been holding him up at that time when he needed it the most tore him down for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know why. I was just in the middle of it watching it all happen going, this isn't really happening. This feels way too much like a movie. Like, this stuff doesn't really happen. Oh, yeah, it just happened.
Yeah.
There's no way this will happen, right? No, there's no way these things. Oh, yep, just happened. Like it was insane, dude. So, you know, the numbers of the money or donations that were either vanished or donated. I don't know. There was some guy, I forgot his name, that was working with Adam with some insurance.
Mhm.
I don't know, but he wrote some like some dooming like report on what had happened, and like all his numbers were way off the charts. So a lot of people got really upset because they thought that like they made assumptions. There were massive
Mm.
assumptions made, and realistically, I think there was like they were saying $50,000 and all this
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Like it was $3,000 that was in question, and then there ended up it ended up not even being in question anymore because it was accounted for. Like it was like
Okay.
so little, and everyone was like, "Oh, 50 could be as much as $150,000." I'm like, what? Where are these people
Yeah.
getting these stories? Like,
Yeah.
it's
He has 1,000 subscribers, and they all donate $5 every week. Everybody always does that, right? We're all always contributing
oh
to them.
yeah,
So
and in every interview I did, I had to
Right.
talk to people, and they're like, I'm a donor, and I demand to know. And I'd be like, I have the donor list, bro. You've never fucking donated, you know? Like, I would totally bust people because it got out of hand. Like people would like get a hold of me somehow, and they'd be like screaming about their
Oh
donations,
my
and like
goodness.
I got so
wow.
much like crazy hate mail and
But it
all
ended
this
up.
stuff because of all this, you know, assumptions people made because they weren't able to, you know, steal Adam's, you know, spotlight while he was in jail.
It ended up just being accounted for at some point, which is
Yeah,
kind of amazing.
it was utterly ridiculous how much stress I had to go through over nothing, you know.
Yeah. Um, let's
So
go.
did you? Yeah, let's move on to another topic here. One of the ones that Brad put in the show notes here is your number one liberty conversion story. This is an interesting one. I'm not very successful with people that I generally know, like in person. Those are the people that I find are the hardest to crack because they know I have brown eyes and like I'm full of shit, right? So everybody else that I find though, when I'm talking to them in a general context, I can get them to accept the ideas, but never fully consider themselves to be a voluntarist, an anarchist, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? How successful are you with
I got
everyday people and like your friends and things like
Yeah. So this is I'll go back to nonviolent communication again. This
Hmm.
if you really grasp this concept, you will convert people faster than anybody you know. Um, most of these people that you talk to that you get to grasp some of these ideas, they're not going to crack immediately. They're not going to be all, "Oh, you're right," you know, and totally understand everything that you understand. It's going to take time, but like that's why like Facebook with all when I during the elections, I put up thousands of videos and things liberty related to all my friends, and they'd talk shit, but eventually they all would walk up to me and thank me for fucking opening up their eyes. People, you
Right.
know, fling shit, it's still gonna stick, even though if they blow it off in their head or whatever. If they see the statement, you know, that you know your president is fucking you in the, you know, like they
Yeah.
get it. It still goes in, and they think about it, and then they start noticing the evidence of it, and you know, it's not always a super fast conversion. Or you know, get them to listen to Adam's book. That'll be,
Right.
you know, that will be
that?
the thing.
There's an old saying that the truth doesn't actually need to be defended. It just needs to be put out there, and it'll defend itself. So I think
Exactly.
that kind of I think that's a good way to put
Very
that.
much so.
So
Yeah, it really is. Well, that's why it's so easy to spit game for freedom, you know?
oh yeah.
It's like so easy to or you know, when you're on a roll, like it's so easy because it's an easy sale to people. You're not trying to get their money, you're trying to enrich their life, you know?
Right, right. Now speaking of the book itself, can we kind of get into what is exactly covered in the book? I understand you want people to go read it, but what can they expect? What's going to make them want to sit down and actually listen to this book besides you know feeling warm and fuzzy because he's using nonviolent communication. I don't mean to like
Yeah,
trivialize or
yeah.
anything, but I just
Well, the book is, well, for one, it's not Adam. Like it's not about
okay.
Adam in any way
Okay.
whatsoever. There's no me, my, I. There's no words like that in the book. It's not about Adam, and it's not about the United States. It's about world freedom and the problem of statism in the world. You know, as it's applied to the world, which it is applied to the world evenly, you know, just as much as anywhere.
Mm.
So it's basically every argument that we know as voluntarists, but put in the best way. You know, just like Adam's as big as he is because his perspective on this stuff is so acceptable to the masses. You know, like he's helped me a lot with my arguments over the years. You know, talking to people, trying to convert people to freedom. But I just lost myself.
Yeah,
That's all right.
you
That's
were
all right.
saying in the pre-show about a little bit about how they it's for people who have already accepted
Okay, the book. Sorry.
liberty.
Yeah. So the book is like every a video of Adam's that I got the most out of was a video called 10 Reasons Not to Vote for Ron Paul, which was a recanting to that statement. Some liberal person wrote that, and it was like an hour, and he went through every like issue that we come across as libertarians with people, and he put his perspective on each one individually, and it's very much like how the book is. The book is just a far more refined version of that. It's really a voluntarist libertarian anarchist manifesto, a modern one, which we don't really have any go-to book that's like that's the
Right.
book that is everything, you know. And if we did, it would be 100 years old, and it wouldn't be talking about cryptocurrencies and stuff like that.
Right, right.
You know? And this book, it's as good as it gets for material for us as a tool for bringing new people in, or advancing your knowledge and sharpening your arguments for freedom.
Now, whenever I argue with people and whenever I talk to people about freedom, a lot of the issues come down to definitions. People
Yeah.
don't have very good definitions of things, so they don't understand what government actually is, what it fundamentally is, and they don't have a good definition for what anarchy is. They just call it chaos, or whatever the propagandized version of the term is. And it's the same thing with people when you're, especially even with the term argue, they don't quite understand that arguing does not mean a yelling match. It doesn't mean that we're using adjectives at each other. It doesn't mean throwing adjectives at each other. It doesn't mean that. It simply means that you propose a you propose a claim. So somebody proposes a claim, and then either you or another person attempts to, using reason, logic, and perhaps evidence, and making different points and stuff, they use that and they say, they use that to support their claim that you're either selling the truth, or what you're saying is true, or what you're saying is false. So that's essentially what an argument is, and so people make truth claims all the time about stuff, and they don't understand that many times when they're arguing, many people, a lot of times when they're arguing, they don't realize that they're arguing, and when they're not arguing and they're just speaking vapid bullshit, they are in fact not arguing. So you know what I mean? So
you know what? Something
in terms of
that
definitions.
Back to NBC again, but no. So what I've noticed that helps a lot with talking to people, over the years I've refined my way of approaching people about these things. And what I've noticed is now I tell stories about how these ideas have made my life better. And people, when you do it that way, they aren't feeling like they're being questioned or attacked. You're just delivering the same info, but you're doing it in a way where they're like, oh, whoa, your life is better because of that? Like, you are happier or more comfortable in life, because that's what we really want. So, like, I have a buddy. I work on motorcycles. I build old vintage motorcycles, and I have a buddy of mine who works for me, and like he brought up one day that his uncle told him to tell Adam that he was voting for him in 2020 or something, and since it was his uncle, I was like, oh, what are you into? And he was like, oh, I'm actually, I believe in communism, and I was just like, oh, cool. And then for the next 5 days, I just told him about how my life is awesome because of liberty and freedom and voluntarism and, you know, that type of stuff. And I've been able, you know, I let him challenge certain things as he wanted. And it, you know how easy challenges, you know, if you're libertarian, like Mo Rhodes, like, you know, all these arguments, we got the arguments down. So it's like, if you know your shit, you know, and you let people, you know, you approach people the right way, and you really know your shit, they're gonna really be a lot more open than if you're like, oh, like if I was all, oh, you're stupid for what, you know, being a commie, you know, like we would never get anywhere. Instead, I was able to talk to him for hours and hours about these ideas, and he really, really understands them now because, you know, we didn't go to that confrontational.
There was
an
incentive, right?
Yeah, and I just, you know, I was sneaky about how I delivered the information, you know. And, you know, that I learned a lot of how, like, that theory from Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent communication.
Cool. Well,
but that's the last time I'm going to mention him.
No, I'm actually a little more curious about this nonviolent communication. You're one of the few people that I've.
People. I went to D.C. when Adam was in jail to visit him and deal with a bunch of his stuff, and it was the same time that the Million Muslim March was happening and the Million Biker March, and they were supposed to like battle it out or something. But I went down to the protest, and I was with the Muslim people, you know, on the inside, and it was a very small group, and all these bikers came from all the directions, and all these cops came, and they're like freaking burning torches, and like it was crazy. There was Hillsboro Baptist people there. There were crazy bikers, you know, everyone screaming at each other, wanting to kill each other. You know, as we're looking right in front of the White House, which is they're the problem, you know.
Right.
They're laughing at us all arguing with each other.
Irony.
They accomplished something. But you know, there was this one lady who was just saying the most ridiculous stuff, and I wanted to interview her. I had all of Adam's gear, and eventually I'll release this, but. I went up to her eventually, and she called me a liberal and all this shit, and I have a Gadsden tattoo, and I was like, what? You know, what liberal has a Gadsden tattoo? And she's all, well, why were you, like, you know, on their side? And I stopped her, and I had a conversation with her, and about 8 minutes in, I destroyed her whole reason for flying cross-country to come scream at these people.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
Face.
That's a good title right there.
Like just a couple minutes. Like she started like talking over me, and I just started talking because I wasn't trying to like badger her. I just started talking, and it was like, hey, you know, you because she was saying some shit about knowing that the government did 9/11, and I was like, you know, like, so you're still upset at the Muslims because like, don't you think that? Because she was saying that. You know, 9/11's our day. We lost a lot of good people, and I was like, they've lost 2.5 million people in the Middle East because of the 2,000 that we lost on 9/11. Like, and they've been having to deal with being called terrorists for freaking 10 years. Don't you think that, you know, they are fed up and they want, you know, like, because their march was a 9/11 truth march, and this lady was agreeing with them, but since they were Muslims, you know, and she's been brainwashed by Fox and all that she just couldn't see past that. But then when I made her empathize with the people and put herself in their shoes, oh, you should see her face. She was so bummed because she told me she understood what I was saying and agreed that they got the raw end of the deal and that, you know, everything that happened that day was fucked up. And she was just so ruined because it's just it's not like a hard thing that you really... I mean, it's like I learned how to do it by doing it with my girlfriend a lot, just because we call each other out on it when we weren't. It's just, it's just a very different way of communicating. Instead of just looking at what you care about, you go, hey, what is this person? Why are they upset right now? They're in fear of
curious.
Something. They're in fear of becoming homeless because of some law someone's passed, or something. They have a fear that you have too. You probably have the same fear because you're a human just like that person. You guys feel the same way. You're just misunderstood because you've been indoctrinated. So talk to the person as a human being and figure out where the bullshit is. Show them that it's bullshit. And it's very interesting. But you guys should definitely check it out. I think it really is what's going to help really fix a lot of the liberty movement if people can actually start using it.
I like watching Adam's videos where he's out on the streets and talking to people in that way. That really
that is
the most constructive videos I've seen by far.
Everybody's favorite videos of Adam's are when he's using nonviolent communication with people. Even dumb people, they're like, you're expecting Adam to say some fucked up shit, but he's super big smile, super nice. That's nonviolent communication. That's how we're supposed to communicate with each other because we all want to be happy. It's
Is
really
there any plans to get that back on rolling and him going and keep on doing that all the time, or?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is when he went to jail, that's when I brought NVC to Adam, and I was like, hey, you have to look at this shit because this is going to fix your problem right now. Your situation in life is pretty fucked at the moment. This is how you're going to fix it, and if you show this to people, you will change people's lives, And he really took it serious because he had the time to. And and he checked it out, and he actually he doesn't use it all the time, that's for sure, but he is consciously trying to more. And his stuff, when he's been using it a lot in a lot of his advice to people, because a lot of people do have advice about how to talk to their friends and family about this stuff, and God, this is it. This is the solution to that problem, in a nutshell. If you combine what we know about freedom with advanced communication skills,
right,
only something good can come of that.
They've done studies where if you do, I'm aware of this, and I'm of course I don't necessarily practice nonviolent communication all the time, or really not necessarily ever, but I mean
no one does. It's a goal you want to you just want to work on it as much as you can.
Sure.
There's no one floating around. That's when things become utopian, is when you're like,
right.
I am 100% anarchist. That's bullshit. Yeah. No one can live life, 100% nonviolent communication. That's utopian. But having it as a goal of always working towards is
just keep coming back to it.
Same thing with voluntarism and anarchism. Some of the biggest anarchists I know, or some of the loudest anarchists I know, are still some of the biggest statists I know. They just don't know because, on the internet you spit a lot of game like you're an anarchist, but you don't practice it in your life, and that's where it counts. That's where it counts, out there, not on the internet. The internet is simply a distraction to keep us from going off, and doing something about it.
Sure. Although I have to say, that's how I found the liberty movement, was through the internet, right? So,
I'm not.
I know you're not saying that. I just wanted to clarify that.
Advantage of,
absolutely not. Yeah.
Taken advantage of in the wrong way can be our worst enemy, but it can also be our greatest weapon. It is our greatest weapon.
Recently, Facebook was using your feed to actually push emotions onto you. Recently, I heard that they did a study like that.
Study without telling people.
Exactly, without telling people, without letting people opt in or out, and
Facebook's so ghetto.
That's one way that it could be used in the way that you're talking about, kind of like in a nefarious way. And I noticed that because I was talking with a Facebook friend of mine, and he was saying, I'm so sick and tired of Facebook. It's so much crap on my feed of just dead children, all this terrible stuff, and I had to mention that this is what Facebook was doing. I don't know if he ever kind of realized that, and thought, hey, maybe this is what's happening, because I literally just heard of that.
The beheading videos and all the dead baby videos. That was. I didn't, because I only read the headline when I saw that. Is that what that was? Because I remember that.
Negative
How
So
are there no boobs, but they're like
right.
chopping people's heads off?
Right. They were using an algorithm to figure out which posts were negative and which posts were positive, and then pushing their respective posts to
Oh,
people. At least that's my understanding of what they were doing. And
wow.
so there's this person who's sitting here not wanting to use Facebook anymore, literally saying, "Hey, I'm about to totally get rid of my Facebook." And I'm like, "Hold on, wait a minute, man. I'm not saying that this isn't even more of a reason to get rid of your Facebook, but to at least understand that this may have been what was going on. You may have been experiencing this like Facebook basically pushing these emotions to you, and through
Call,
basically creating, because it's an environment, right? Like Facebook is an
that's
environment, and if they can mold the environment to do this, and I've even heard that like the Pentagon was involved in it to some degree. I don't know how true that is, but that there may have been some sort of uh, collusion between Facebook and the Pentagon, or at least the Pentagon may be interested in something like that, something like that. So that was a bit interesting to hear, and
can you
Hmm.
can you
but
call into the show Monday? Skype in because that's
sure,
something we're wanting to start bring certain stories to the news. Because we stopped doing the news show that was just reading the
yeah,
news. Now we're doing more casual, but we do want to read a little bit of more stories that are this interesting. But I
yeah,
thought it was interesting before I knew it was all that stuff, because I remember seeing all that stuff and being like, whoa, how all of a sudden there's like people getting hacked up and like
yeah.
just in the feed by random people that I didn't even know. Like
Hmm.
that's so
Yeah,
wild, but
they took apparently it was 600,000 people that they did this to. So, and there's a lot of people on Facebook, so they might have expanded it by now. I don't know.
I
But this
think we
is
all
what the
just
news
got put in
was.
the echo chamber.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I
almost
mean they
every
use algorithms
activist on
anyway. So,
Facebook, almost every Facebook activist got taken down last month. Remember?
oh yeah,
And
oh yeah,
and I think they put us in a different algorithm, and I think we're just we're
right.
all playing to a couple hundred people, thinking we're still connected, and we really aren't. Facebook is done, dude.
Yep,
Facebook's so ghetto. Ugh. Like
yep.
I don't even like I. I hope something else comes up soon that's just not as ghetto because
Yeah.
it's literally worthless, you know.
Yeah, and it's a
The
lot of
chances of all that happening though is so slim. Like I haven't seen anything. That Liberty.me is maybe something that's close, kind of, but I don't even.
But it's
You have to
who
pay for
wants
that,
to
you
do
know.
super complicated. Yeah,
what's complicated about it.
yeah. It's just not. I mean, it's isn't it it's like it's just a really odd format.
Yeah, I
And you
haven't
have to pay
looked
for
into
it,
it.
and it's
Yeah,
not like it's
yeah,
encrypted or anything like that. I don't know. I get
right.
it, but again, like their Liberty.me is more the Jeffrey Tucker, that sort of. I mean, I don't. I hate dividing people, but it's like the more conservatarian type of group that
Yeah.
I'd rather just hang out on the Brutalist page. So I'm
Same
glad
here.
you have Facebook to go
Hey,
pay
so
to
Facebook
be over there
Facebook
and
has some little niches left. If you're praising that brutalist page, I'm amazed that a
yeah,
page like that could
with
pop
the
up out of
camera on
nowhere.
And yeah, and still be around. Definitely,
Yeah,
it's
Hmm.
kind of amazing.
he's pretty
Um,
strict about it.
yeah, yeah, and the way that he has it set up so that people don't necessarily add people. Just
Yeah, he adds them. He
yeah,
like handpicks them.
yeah,
Smart.
Hmm.
Like
yeah,
I told Adam the other day, I was like, dude, you gotta start going in there more. There's like a lot of active people in there, and they all know who you
yeah.
are.
Oh, absolutely. I
Invited to
don't think
go
there's
in.
anybody there who wouldn't know who Adam is, but we would love to come on the show at some point.
Monday,
We'll have to figure that out.
Monday, 5 to 8. Probably around. We take callers pretty much all day, but then Thursday, Adam's doing a marathon from 9 a.m. the 3rd to 9 a.m. on the 4th, where we'll be taking calls the whole time, and it's kind of just going to
Wow.
be like party atmosphere, I guess, or something. But he's nuts. I wouldn't want to do that for 24 hours. But that's going to be fun, probably.
Is basically going to do like is it going to be a live stream sort of deal?
Yeah, it's going to be on the blog, adamversustheman.com/live. I don't know if you guys, did you guys watch last Monday's show? It was pretty funny. We have one of our guys over here, Dean, is hilarious, and Dean roasted Adam on the show. You should go check it out.
I tried to watch. I think it was that show. I tried to watch it, but there was
funny.
People were having some problems linking up to it.
Yeah, go to the last couple videos Adam put up, and it's the Ryan Report, and it's
okay.
It's so funny.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, call in either Monday or Thursday, but Monday's when I'm co-hosting with Adam.
Sweet. Yeah, I've noticed you're beginning to participate more in the FaceTime on the show.
Yeah, we're just kind of. I mean, Adam's been doing his solo podcast for a long time, and it's we're experimenting right now, with a 1 week, 3-hour show, and then Adam's out in the street doing more fun videos more often instead of just in front of the camera every single day. I felt for years that he was, selling himself short with that format, and he finally listened. And now it's, one really fun show a day that has a bunch of good segments in it, and then focusing more on street videos. And street videos are why we all, know him pretty much.
Totally.
This summer's gonna be a lot of good videos this summer. I don't know if you saw the sobriety checkpoint video that we did.
Yes, yeah, that was a great one. I love that.
I couldn't believe that happened in front of my eyes. Like, that was so much fun.
I have not checked that one out, but I did see it was pretty recent. One of the last few videos you guys uploaded. It was one with him and a Hillary Clinton supporter. Which was pretty interesting. And
he just talks her out of liking her and
pretty much.
Oh God, you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
think about that.
Bombing people.
Yeah. So is this kind of how your guys' kind of strategy is going to be going forward?
Well, the book is the main focus right now. Is just getting people to read the book. Okay. And keeping the good content going, but promoting the book is the big thing. And then, once September comes and we figure out what happens with Adam, then we'll figure out what we're going to do. But it's never a dull moment over here at Adam versus the Man Studios.
So, before we go, is there anything you wanted to plug or say that you got going on?
Phillips Ranch Project, which is what I talked about earlier. If anybody's interested in that, just look up the Facebook group, Phillips Ranch Project. You can donate there. We're taking donations.
Sweet.
Adam, of course, adamversustheman.com/live. Monday, 5 to 8, we do the podcast that's live. I co-host. And then adamversustheman.com/freedom is the audio version of the book that you should definitely read, and then The Basics to Nonviolent Communication on YouTube by Marshall Rosenberg. Just fast forward through the guitar singing and
and animal puppets.
Really good stuff. Well, no, you gotta watch the sock puppet stuff, unfortunately. But you can fast forward through him singing and playing guitar.
Well, we're ready to change our lives, man.
Awesome.
Definitely. Thanks so much for coming on with us today on the show, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you on Adam versus the Man soon, hopefully.
Cool. Let me know when you want me to come back after you read the book.
We definitely will. Will.
Sure.
So, Garrett, you wanted to mention something about the Fuck Politics page and...
Yeah, I'll just plug all our pages here. Brad and I are both on a page called Fuck Politics. Find us on there on Facebook. Also check out Sadism is Slavery, the largest voluntarist Facebook page in the entire world. And as always, you're watching on the Voluntary Virtues Network. This has been another great episode of Breaking Down the Political System. We'll catch you next week. See you guys.